Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 162nd installment of the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Vaera, another packed parsha. Starts off with God's reassurance to Moshe. Mentions the four expressions of redemption and talks about when the redemption begins. Talk about the 10 plagues. Talk about blood, frogs, lice, swarm of wild beasts. The epidemic, right? Fifth plague, the epidemic. Sixth plague, boils. Seventh plague, hail, right? Plenty what to speak about here. Torah says, chapter 9, verse 21. It says, whoever did not take the word of God to heart, he left his servants and his livestock in the field. In other words, they didn't listen to God. If they leave their livestock in the field, they didn't believe, well, guess what? Gonna get destroyed. Totally gonna get destroyed. Says Targum Yonason ben Uziel is talking about that they didn't place to heart these words that Moshe said, and what God was gonna do. Bilam. It's talking about Bilam, non-Jewish prophet Bilam. Now, says Mori Rebbe, Arav Agon Moshe Machlita should be well. Brings down in Chochmah Vedas, brings down in his book on his commentary on Chumash, and he says the majority of people do not believe there was somebody in charge. Right? Somebody in charge of the world. Why? Because their understanding wouldn't allow for it. It didn't make sense to them. How can it be? There's really a creator? I mean, Avram at the age of 3 or the age of 40 understood the world by design. There must have been a creator. But for them, they couldn't fathom it. Kind of like the Greeks. They only understand what their mind can fathom. Right? What it can understand. Anything beyond that doesn't exist. So therefore, when Moshe said this is going to happen, and I'm going to bring this plague, and he warned them, they didn't listen. So by the majority, I understand they don't think there's a creator. They can't fathom it. Good. But if we're talking about Bilam raised himself to a high level. The rabbis teach us that there wasn't a prophet who came to the Jewish people as great as Moshe. But there was a hint, even though it wasn't a Jewish prophet, it was a non-Jewish prophet. Some say he had even greater power in certain ways. Who was that? Bilam. So, he had a tremendous knowledge. He wasn't like everybody else. He had a lot of knowledge. If that's true, his mind understood a lot. But he wasn't able to have his mind overcome his heart. Right? So it says over here that what was the lack? He didn't put it in his heart. He didn't place it into his heart. So the lack was in his heart, not his understanding. He understood. He had clear understanding. He didn't put it in his heart. And that's why it's a reference over here to Bilam. Because in their minds, they were brilliant. They understood a lot. But in their hearts, they weren't able to overcome it. So he says, it's good for us. Maria points out that even with all his understanding, that is like Moshe Rabbeinu, nonetheless, wasn't able to have power over his desires. Right? He wasn't able to have power over his desires. So there's a fundamental thing here we've spoken about, but it's always good. It's always good to rehash things we already know. Bilam himself, brilliant. Talmud says he's able to figure out the exact time when God's going to get angry. That split second. And he gets the Jewish people to sin, etc. Right? He's compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. Obviously, the rest of the people not. The rest of the people are definitely going to have issues. What they don't see, what they don't fathom, that's it. They're not going to go beyond that. But even so, how could it be somebody as great as that, with all that understanding, allows his heart to overcome it? You could tell me it's ego. Right? Mishnah Pirkei Avos says in Ethics of Our Fathers, 3 things take a person out of this world. Kina, Taiva, Kavod. Kina, which is jealousy, Kavod, honor, desire. Taiva, desire. Now you can look at that literally. Could kill someone. Kina, jealousy, killed Korach. Korach wasn't a fool. Right? He understood what was going on. But he was jealous. He said, why should Aaron get the kahuna? Why should Moshe favor him? I'm just as good. Why shouldn't I get it? Destroyed him. Anyone attached to him got destroyed. We have to understand who Korach was. Right? Korach was one of the bearers of the ark. If you weren't holding at a high level, you carried the ark. And you weren't holding there, you died. So it wasn't just, somebody who jealousy got to him. It's hard to understand. We know what this jealousy is. But there was something that got to him. And then he got gypped. Right, so you have great people, great minds. And they can't think like the Greeks we mentioned. They can't think beyond what they don't understand, what they don't see. Famous story. The Vilna Gaon, some of his students there, and they're having this discussion, and name Aristotle came up, or Socrates came up, and the Vilna Gaon said, if I were to say, in an ineffable name of God, and bring all the heavenly constellation stars into this room, he himself, if he was sitting there, Socrates, Aristotle, whoever, and try and figure out how I'm doing it. Why? Because their minds could not fathom such a thing. So therefore it doesn't exist. But the students asked him. Students said, how do you know? Maybe he'll change. Maybe he'll see the truth. Right? The Vilna Gaon said, he lived in the same generation, Aristotle, as Shmuel HaKatan. The small Samuel. He was a massive rabbinic scholar. Unbelievable rabbinic scholar. And he said, if he came in contact with somebody like that, didn't change him, then if I bring in all the heavenly spheres in this room, wouldn't change him either. Right, so there were people, brilliant people, scientists, mathematicians, other, scholars, whatever. They don't want to see beyond what they don't know. Because they'll say, it's a leap of faith. Can't prove it. Oh, there are a lot of things you can't prove. But even if you can't prove it 100%, what, I'm going to be made fun of? I'm rational. That's how I deal with things. In a rational way. Can't be backwards and think that the Bible might be true. The Bible might be right. How could I think such a thing? So it could be, when the evil inclination comes, it says, it's knocking down their ego. They're not willing to be subservient. Not willing to lay themselves down to God's law. Could be the more intelligent they are, the more they think, why should I bother? And they come up with all kinds of excuses, maybe fancy excuses. Why I don't have to keep the Torah. Why I don't have to do what I have to do. But it boggles the mind. Somebody with that level of understanding, there's a total disconnect between the mind and the heart. The mind sees things, understands, has clarity, or maybe lack of clarity, whatever, but has clarity. The heart has desire. So even if you have a high, sophisticated level of understanding, if a person is used to going after their desires, that's what's going to happen. There's not going to be a limit. They're not going to be stopped. They're going to continue in those ways. But the mind may understand things otherwise. It's a big knock, certainly against anyone in academia. Imagine, someone who's a scientist, physicist, astronomer, whatever it is. They have all this knowledge, but they only believe in what can be proven. They only believe what's in front of their face. You say, how do you know there's a world to come? Right? My Rebbe will say clear. I never met anyone who's been there and come back. True. And even if you say, wow, a lot of people had out-of-body experiences, explain what they saw. Okay. That enough to convince someone? Not necessarily. But there's a lot of proof out there that there has to be something more than this world. The Ramchal, Path of the Just, brings that out. Can't only be about this world. Fame! Right? Can't be about this world. And only about this world. So a person may think, well, that sounds very good. And he can bring me different proofs why it must exist. But see, I'm sophisticated. I have a high level of knowledge. So a person may try and knock that down. Or make fun of it. Because it's not something concrete. That's what they'll say. There are plenty of proofs that the Torah is true. Beyond the shadow of a doubt. So if the Torah is true, doesn't it mean there's a world to come? Doesn't it mean there's reward and punishment? Now people can have doubts. Can have doubts. They have to be legitimate doubts. If someone's searching for truth, they'll get there. If you're not searching for truth, you'll make excuses. But like, I know for sure. How do you know for sure? Have you seen the other side? Have you heard the other side's argument? Right? Most people are not interested in hearing that. Why not? Because if they hear it, it might be right. And if it's right, that means I have to change. That they're not willing to do. right? They're not intellectually honest. Right, that being the case, they will not get in a discussion. So where's the open-mindedness? Right, they'll claim they're much more open-minded than us. Okay, let's debate. Let's see if there's anything to what I have to say. If a person says, I already know there's nothing you have to say, they're not being honest. And most people make excuses. They're not honest. But that's exactly what people do. They'll make one excuse, a second excuse, a third excuse. They'll use different things. Say, oh, see, there is no answer. I don't have to keep it. Or whatever. They don't look at what someone throws at them as absolute proof. Now, it depends what realm you're arguing in. Right? There are many different proofs to show the Torah is true. But a person can always say, I have a doubt, not sure. But if you prove enough of it, what do you do with the information? So someone's intellectually honest, which most people aren't. It's going to affect them. It's going to put a chink in the armor. It's going to put a hole there. Eventually it'll furrow. Get bigger. And then it's going to cause them to have to do something. That's if someone's intellectually honest. But if someone has a high IQ, someone's very bright, they'll make excuses. Oh, the rabbi says, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. But they're not looking at what it is. Right? They're saying things, don't make sense. The question is if you can hit them logically. Because after all, someone's a scientist. Don't they want to be hit logically? They're not going to be mushy-gushy, touchy-feely with them. They have to see things in front of their face. So how are they going to see it in front of their face? Okay, let's show proof. Well, the question is, are they going to want to see it? Are they going to want to see it? So, in this case, and in many cases like it, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the mind, the mind and the heart. We said before, the mind might know what the right thing to do is, or maybe skeptical or whatever. But it's going to be the heart that dictates. So now, within Judaism, we don't believe in compartmentalization. Now, the Torah is true. You have to keep it. Going after desire is bad. God exists. The Torah is true, so why don't you keep it properly? The answer is we're lazy. But the other answer is because we're caught up in this world. In our heart, as we say in the Shema, do not go after your heart and after your eyes. Don't go after your base desires. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, Shari Tshuva, the first gate, the gate of repentance. So there are different aspects of Tshuva, right? Different levels. He says there's one level about breaking desires, right? It's part of doing Tshuva. Breaking desires, he says, means even things that are permissible. Now, the Torah says, Book of Leviticus, chapter 19. Torah tells me I have to be holy. Kedoshim to you, you shall be holy. Why? Because God is holy. Difference of opinion, Rashi, the Ramban, exactly what that means. Doesn't mean it's always talking about forbidden relationships. i.e. arayas, immorality. We're talking about anything like the Ramban. Talking about things, eating, drinking, whatever. Right? It's because I'm allowed to eat and drink doesn't mean I'm allowed to be a glutton. Right? So at the end of the day, the Rebbeinu Yonah says, stay away from things that are impermissible. The reason is, so you don't have these desires. So you totally break these desires. You go to the other extreme. So you're going to say, well, that's an extreme position. Right? But desire kills people. In many ways. So Victor Miller, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, may his name be blessed, would say, you have to live what the Torah says. You have to be thankful for what God gives us. And that means going out to nature. That means smelling the roses. Seeing God's greatness in the world. Thanking Him for air. Thanking Him for water. But going over and over and over and over again. God, thank you for this. God, thank you for that. I wouldn't be anything without you. That's the mantra. You got to put it in your heart. You got to live it even if it's hard. But God gives us the ability to do that. He opens up so many doors. There's so many things we have to be thankful for. We just complain a lot. That's hard and this is hard and the other thing. What about all the goodness? What happened to all the goodness? What, it's like it doesn't exist? God doesn't do anything? God forbid. How can it be? Doesn't make so much sense. But he says, you think that comes overnight? Doesn't come overnight. You got to do it on a regular basis. But you got to mean it. That's how you don't make a disconnect. Because your mind understands that. Your mind sees the miracles of the human body. The mind sees the miracles of nature. Right? Your mind understands the world by design, not haphazard. Your mind understands the bigger picture of how God runs the world, even though we're not privy to what goes on and how things are run. Right? But we understand the bigger picture. Even so, why is it so hard to think of the bigger picture all the time and all the goodness and not go after desire? Why can't we stay on the straight and narrow path? Reason is the evil inclination is very strong, 100%. It's on its last legs today. But the evil inclination makes everything so much better, so much easier. I mean better, but so much easier. You can have everything in the palm of your hand. You don't even have to hide anywhere. You can have it right in the palm of your hand. So God understands that. He put us in this world. But He put us in this world to work, to strive. He knows how good He made it. He knows the difficulties. So the bottom line is you cannot put yourself in a situation where you're going to set yourself up to fail. Because the more a person gives into their desires, it's game over. You can't fight it. Once you let it in, it's very hard to get out. You get sucked in. Right? It's really the bottom line. So again, it sounds like you tell me it's an austere idea, lifestyle. You're allowed to enjoy this world, but you have to know how. You have to know how to navigate it properly. Because if you don't, this world will destroy you. So how do I do that? How do I keep my focus on that? The only way to do it is to be immersed in Torah study. Listening to classes, going to classes, doesn't matter you have to work. You find time. That is the only way you stay in the straight and narrow path. But, we mentioned last week, it's got to be constant. The Torah is the antidote. That's for sure. But I have to use what God gives me. I have to use that brain power to keep putting in my heart the goodness. The hashgacha pratis, divine providence, the chesed that God does with us. You have to go over it and over it and over. It sounds silly because it's obvious. But we are too much caught up in the day. Too much caught up in everything that we do. And when we're caught up in what we do, our mind goes out the window. Even if it knows it's the wrong thing, the mind just withers. In my language, it's a wuss. It can't fight the power of the heart. The only way possible is to embellish, to envelop the idea of thanking God on a regular basis for everything. That's what you got to do. For every little thing. Thank you for the air. Thank you for the water. Thank you for the food. So this is what has to be done. A person will think, and I thought this as well, a person may think you can straddle both worlds. You can learn, you can do other things. Right, read secular things, go to movies. No contradiction. So you'll say it offsets. It doesn't. Why doesn't it offset? Because you let this garbage in your head. And when you let the garbage in your head, it doesn't go out so easily. You got to fight to get rid of it. So a number of years ago, there were 22 judges, rabbinic judges, that were elected here in Israel, or that were appointed, let's say better, that were appointed, and 15 out of 22 came from the ultra-Orthodox camp. That's about 58%. Now, people say, it's discrimination against the religious Zionist camp, this, that. But the reality is, they're appointed. It's not politics here. It's about knowledge. It's about erudition. It's a good word. Erudition. You're going to say, why does almost 60% come from the ultra-Orthodox camp? Because in the nationalist camp, what we'll call modern Orthodox, or whatever you want to call them, religious Zionist, what's important to them is Torah. That's true. Erudition, as a Torah scholar, is not. If you would ask modern Orthodox parents, what would they rather have? A rabbinic scholar for a son, or a doctor, or a lawyer? What's more prestigious? To them, it's to be a doctor or a lawyer. Not everybody, not saying everybody, but in general. Why? Because their philosophical outlook is corrupt. Because they give way too much credit and credibility to the secular world. So that's the reason they don't produce as many rabbinic scholars. Because that's not what they're interested in. They're not interested in everybody sitting and learning for so long so we can have these rabbinic scholars. Not interested in that. Want to make money. Can still be a religious Jew by making money, by working. Can't study all the time. So that means that religious scholarship is not that important. Because what will modern Orthodox parents say? Listen, my kid learned already. He's 18, 19, 20. Let him go to college. Get it, do something real. Right? Might have such a busy schedule. 2 mornings and 2 afternoons a week. Right? Might struggle with that. But let him do something real with his life, quote unquote. Now Rashi says 2 places. Or let's say better. Torah says in 2 places about the Levim serving. One place says they're 25. Another place says 30. Rashi says, what's going on? What's difference? What's the 5-year difference? So Rashi explains, you give someone 5 years to learn, to see if anything's going to come out of them, to see if they have the potential to be a rabbinic scholar. If they have the potential, they continue. If not, they go do other things. But you got to give them the opportunity. You can't stop someone learning at 18. So when they find, they're developing their mind. They know how to learn now. We have to see what their potential is. You can't cut it off, nip it in the bud, say, okay, let's see. We're going to cut them off at 18. How can you do that? Doesn't make sense. You're limiting them. Rashi says you got to give them a chance. If you don't give them a chance, then for sure they'll fail. They'll never get there. But this is a corrupt mentality. Let them do something real for the world. Get a degree in tax law. Let them be an accountant, real thing. Right, being a Torah scholar is like, second class. Again, I'm not saying everybody, I'm not saying across the board. But there are a lot of people that think this. Definitely, I've been part of the movement. Someone can say, oh, you're just blowing smoke, you have no idea. I was there. Right? Again, am I going to say everybody? I'm not going to say everybody. But there are a lot of people part of that movement, that's exactly what they think. My son, the doctor, lawyer, accountant, is better than my son, the rabbi. They don't respect it as much. It's clear. I think it's clear. In any case, with that attitude that's prevalent, you are not going to produce as many Torah scholars. Because it's not your interest. So, the desires of the heart to make money, be successful. Here we're talking about someone, if they have the opportunity to learn, instead they go after their desires. Right? This is the issue. It takes away a person from the real thing. Right? What's the real thing? The real thing is Torah. Right? In the outer Orthodox world, the Haredi camp, as we'll call it, what's the most important thing? Torah learning. Torah scholarship. That's the most important thing. Not about Zionism, right? Not about being a lawyer, not being a doctor. It's about learning. It's about learning as much as we can and implementing it in our lives. That's what Torah is. It's not about, okay, I'll keep it. I'm afraid I'm going to fry out forever. I don't want to do that. So of course I'll keep it. I'm not going to be on a high level. I'm not going to learn very much. You'll be lucky if you stay religious. You can say, wow, what was that, a curse? You cursing us? No. But there's a reality. There's a reality in that world. As a rabbi of mine I learned under many years ago, told me a few years back, the statistic in the modern Orthodox world is 1 out of 4 who grow up in a modern Orthodox school in America stay religious. He told me this. I'm not making this up. 1 out of 4. That means there's a 75% dropout rate. 75%. There's a problem. And the reason there's a problem is because they don't machshiv Torah. They don't think Torah scholarship and Torah learning is end-to-end all things. There are other things I can do besides learn. If you're doing it for the sake of parnasa, for the sake of livelihood, it's one thing. Right, but you gotta give yourself the chance. You gotta give yourself the chance. How do you know what a person's potential is? You don't. But if you don't give them the chance, they'll never know. So again, there are people that have messed up minds. Messing up their kids, messing up generations. Because they think other things are more important. And when you think other things are more important, you will not produce what you need to produce. And to me, it's all about continuity. It's all about what the next generation looks like. Who are going to be the leaders of the Jewish people in the Torah world? Where are they going to come from? So I was once part of that other camp. And that is the reason. Anyone wants to know, I'll tell you. That is the reason I left it. Because I didn't see any continuity. Doesn't mean you don't have religious families. Doesn't mean some of them are not really, really stark, really frum. It means their outlook is totally different. When I saw that, I said, I don't want it for me or for my family. Now see how the other side lives. So for the past 27 years, I've been in that camp. And that's not going to change. Because I see it works. It definitely works. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying there aren't issues. We don't have a 75% dropout rate. Not even close. Right? And it's all about Torah scholarship. So with all that, go back to Bilam. With all that, I have to use my knowledge. And everything I learn. And I have to implement it. And I have to work at it. And I have to strive, even if life is hard. But that's the only way you're going to get anywhere. Like what Victor Miller said, you make it real. Because if you don't make it real, it's just like go through the motions. And if you go through the motions, it's a recipe for disaster. It won't be kept the way it needs to be. And a person runs the risk, if they have a family, what their kids look like. Right? And how strong those next generations look like. Because that's what it's all about. Right? And I told somebody, it's either you look like me or you disappear. But again, I'm not going to say, the modern Orthodox world are going to disappear. Right? Some of them are very religious. I'm not saying not. The vast majority are in serious trouble. I don't think there's any question about that. First thing is, I'll take my chances. Okay? Right? I like to be part of something that's growing, that's alive, that's vibrant, that has continuity, that has potential. Something where the potential seems to be dead in many ways. It's not an attraction. So we got to take these ideas. We got to take what we know, our minds, right? Make them stronger with knowledge. But it only helps if you implement it and don't go after your base desires. Because if you do, I can promise you, 100%, you will be a fossil. You won't be able to pass it on to your kids. Don't collect 200. It's something that cannot be done. I've had experience, seen it. Now, is that 100% guarantee in every ultra-Orthodox family? No, it's not a guarantee. Right? But it's something that's shown it works over and over and over again. But, again, you have to work hard. And you have to take what you know in your mind and place it in your heart and work hard to keep it there, as we explained. So I want to remind everyone I have a class every Tuesday night, Duties of the Heart, 9 o'clock New York time. We're discussing the fight against the evil inclination every Tuesday and Thursday, and Wednesday night, sorry, before I get to Tuesday and Thursday, Wednesday, 8 o'clock Israel time, 1 o'clock New York time, do a class on Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. Every Sunday, Book of Leviticus, chapter 11, 9 o'clock New York time. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Q&A, do a question and answer session. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock New York time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I have conversion classes. Anyone interested in any of this, you can find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing everyone a great Shabbos.